Hello, everyone. It's Micah, and I'm back. About 10 months ago, I tried a little reboot of my reaction channel, and it didn't go so well. I wasn't really feeling it. I only got a handful of videos in, but now I'm ready to start back at it, and I want to finish what I started and go through all the number one hits of the 80s. But as you can see, the backdrop's a little different. The scene is a little different. Uh, I feel better, and I feel like this is going to be a more sustainable iteration of the channel. And so I'm going to premiere something that I'm not going to say I invented it because I'm sure there's someone else out there who's dispensed with the conventions of the reaction video format. But I'm the first person that I know that's doing it, so please welcome to my reactionless videos. I have heard all the commentary and I have taken it in, and I agree with you. I shouldn't really be, well, those of you who express this sentiment anyway, I shouldn't really be reacting to videos. So from here on out, this is going to be reactionless videos where I just tell you what I think about music. In other words, music criticism. And I still will be focusing, at least for now, on one song per video, and I will have previewed or reviewed that song and or music video prior to watching, prior to recording this the video where I speak about it. But I'm not going to watch you. I'm not going to have you watching me watching the video because I think back to that iconic, probably the single most iconic reaction video moment in all of YouTube history, where the two young men, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of their channel. I have watched several of their videos, but where they absolutely lose their minds when the drum break happens in the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. That is an iconic, classic reaction, very genuine music reaction video moment, and it's sort of the 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 video that launched a million reaction videos because it became marketable at that point. And the trick to having a good reaction video channel is selling your reactions to things. Most of my reactions are happening inside of here, and so, unfortunately, the video doesn't reach inside of there. And so basically, y'all have been watching me stare at a screen for 4 minutes with a video that presumably you've already seen before, just on a much smaller scale on the corner at the corner of the screen somewhere. So this way you don't have to watch me react. I'm going to link to the video in the comments or in the description, and you can go ahead and watch the video on your own and come back to me reacting to it if that's what you so choose. But and also no more copyright blocks. And hey, if a million of y'all tune in, I get all the money from it, and I don't have to fork it all over to those pesky artists and record companies and copyright holders. But of course, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me get 10 views before I get a million. At any rate, so so that's just a prologue to let you know about the new direction I'm taking with my reactionless videos. Welcome to my first reactionless video, where I pick up where I left off at the beginning of 1983. The last number one song that I reacted to was Man Eater by Hall & Oates, which was number one for several weeks at the end of 82 and the beginning of 83. The first number one of 1983 was the song Down Under by Men at Work, and I'm really happy to make that my comeback video, the song I react to as part of my reintroduction to the channel, because it's a very important song to me personally. Why, you ask? Well, in 1983, when the song came out, I was 9 years old. Please don't do the math on that. And Men at Work was my very, very first favorite music act. My parents really didn't listen to popular music of the time. They weren't thrilled about the fact that I was listening to secular music because we lived in a very religious household. But my father was a fan of 50s rock and roll. It wasn't like it was forbidden, it just was not encouraged. But of course, pop culture started seeping in peripherally, and for some reason, the first group that really captured my interest in that way was Men at Work. And Down Under was one of my very first favorite records that I had um, when I was a kid. At that point, I didn't have a favorite type of music. I didn't really know what I was listening to. I didn't have any context for what it was. I knew it sounded new and different from what I was told was real music. My father very heavily attempted to indoctrinate me into 50s rock and roll as being the gold standard of what music should be, or what popular or secular music should be. And so everything kind of sort of bounced off of that as a comparison point. And I knew that this music from Men at Work seemed new and different and fun. And that's really the catchword here for Men at Work. They were fun. They were offbeat. The music videos only accentuated the humor in the lyrics, and the playfulness in the arrangements was also really refreshing. And this is especially with the first couple of songs. Now they definitely got a little more serious in later single releases. I'm thinking about "It's a Mistake," "Overkill," pretty serious songs. But their 1-2 punch was "Who Can It Be Now," which I did a reaction video to. I don't remember. I think it might have been in that pocket of time when I was trying to revive the reaction channel, because it was only about 3 or 4 months before Down Under went #1 in the U.S. And I know I probably went through my whole Men at Work love story spiel at the time, but I'm telling it again. So I was really drawn to the music because it was different, and for me, like, I was already being kind of a contrarian to my father. I felt like whatever good music was, it had to be something different than what he was trying to shove down my throat. So the more sort of counterpoint I could find with what my father liked, the better. And Men at Work was definitely different. To this day, I really have a hard time categorizing them. I guess you would sort of call them new wave. There was something kind of progressive in the way that they used that they arranged their songs, and there was something iconoclastic about how they approached their lyrics. I can't find a clear precedent in pop music history. Maybe you can drop in the comments, like, who were their forebears? Who is someone that you would think, like, built the stage, or they may have modeled their sound after? Because to me, they seem to be kind of a one of one type of group. And similarly, the song "Down Under" itself, if you listen to it, for me anyway, it's hard for me to even give it a genre. Uh, I guess I would call it pop rock. Uh, it was it was only like maybe years later that it really sort of sunk in that Men at Work were really a rock group, and that they actually were, most of their music they had some synths, and obviously there was the flute solo in Down Under and a couple of the other songs, but they were really a guitar-based rock group, but they didn't play or arrange their songs like a rock band usually would. And it took me a very long time to sort of understand, and as I was listening to this again last night, I realized that Down Under is a guitar-based song. It's got a jangly guitar through line, but there are punctuated little uh, pieces of sound in there, or musical effects. I don't think they're synthesized, but I couldn't tell you what all the and it could have just been like manipulations of the electric guitars, but there are a few little sound effects sounding instrumental pieces in the song, and then there's the flute solo, which is what everyone really remembers, and then it's also pretty percussion heavy, and relies on kind of a almost tropical sounding percussion, and it's always been a very quirky and unique song. Now, lyrically, I never really took the song very seriously, but apparently from reading up on it, it's actually sort of a commentary on uh, corporate greed and loss of national identity. It's done in a very playful way, but it's almost like an Australia Tourism Board song gone uh, gone very very left, gone very off the rails, because it really is about. I'm gonna, the narrator is an Australian who's going on all these exploits, many of them drug related, as it so happens. He's in a drug den, and he's on the hippie trail, which I found out through my research is an actual place, vaguely defined, but a real place in Europe and Asia. And it's interesting that at the time that some certain drug references could get through onto top 40 radio, um, and I mean coming out of the 70s, I guess it doesn't really it's not really that surprising because we were still kind of in the hippy dippy culture, and so like drug use at that time had been sort of normalized. But of course, I think we think of the 80s of when everything kind of got straight laced again with the Reagan era and Nancy Reagan and Tipper Gore, and that whole cohort of conservative, socially conservative. Um, Activism, I guess. I was at a loss for words there for a second, and plus I'm being distracted because Amir decided he was going to make a cameo here. So everyone say hi to Amir. Uh, Incidentally, this setup just sort of presented itself, and I'm not going to explain my physical setup here, but as you can see, I'm actually pretty comfortable. My prior setup, I was kind of perched up on a bar stool, and for some reason, I felt like that was going to be the best uh, presentation of myself. I worked really hard to get just the right angles, but as I started recording today, I just kind of plopped the computer down and the camera down and the lights down on where it was comfortable and where I would, where it just made the most sense from a comfort perspective, and it turned out it worked pretty well. And I have like a nice little backdrop already custom made for this type of video. So I think I'm gonna use this for a while. At any rate, getting back to the song, uh, it's actually a sort of a deep song, but I think it's more deep in conception than it is in execution. It's really kind of a silly surface level song. And I mean, once you know what the layers are to it, once you know that it's about, losing the Australian national identity and about getting uh, over Americanized. I think that was something else that Colin Hay, who was the lead singer and the person who wrote the lyrics for the song, uh, said about it, about the record. Um, Once you hear it, you can't unhear it, uh, and but it just comes across as kind of a silly song, and because it's so silly, it's easy to just dismiss certain lyrics in the song. The one thing that really stands out for me is uh, uh, the the part in the chorus where it says, what does it say? Where the beer flows and the men chunder, and I don't know what I ever thought that line was. On some level, I kind of just figured that since there are only two English words that I could think of that rhyme with each other, that are being used in the song already, thunder and under, I just figured chunder was like some made up word so that the verse would rhyme. I mean, it's a silly song after all, right? Only last night did I learn, or maybe relearn, that chunder actually means to throw up, which is a hilarious thing to put in the chorus of a song, and it further accentuates the kind of the intoxication focus of the song, shall we say? So there's a lot of drinking and implied drug use going on in the song, and really in the music video, which is more or less a silly recreation of the lyrics of the song. And the other part, of course, of that chorus is, "Can't you hear that thunder? You better run. You better take cover." That's sort of talking about the cataclysm that is to come, which is loss of identity, getting taken over by, uh, however you want to put it, the mainstream world, the corporate world, Americanization, all those things. So in that sense, like, I think that Men at Work, in some ways, and I may be reaching a little here, but in some ways they remind me a lot of Midnight Oil, another very off-kilter Australian rock band that came out in the following decade. And um, I'm sorry. I just realized that I've probably been looking off into the distance for a good part of this video. It's because I was just lost in thought, and like I can't actually see you there. There's a laptop camera, so it's not like I feel like I'm engaging with you any less because I'm focused out there as opposed to the camera. I'll get better at it. But there was a sense of off-kilter nativist activism, I feel like, that was at play, but it's almost like they're flip sides of the same coin. Like, Men at Work was the silly, goofy, buffoon side of the activism, while still like following through with the messaging, while Midnight Oil was incredibly intense and absolutely humorless. So it's interesting to see the two sides of the same coin, and yet and still both groups were incredibly quirky and enigmatic in the way that they approached their music. But as I said, Down Under, as a kid, you can understand why, with the silly lyrics and the goofy music video and the sound effects and the flute solo, why it was Men at Work became my favorite group. So for a while before I really kind of found my musical home in terms of the genre that I liked, Men at Work was my very first favorite act, and I found the flute solo so captivating in the song that when it was time the following year to choose what instrument I wanted to play in band, because we were required to take band class in 5th grade, I ended up choosing the flute. And so I played the flute for 1 year, and actually a couple of years ago at Christmas, my partner got me a flute because I just happened to mention it in an offhanded way. I had played it 1 year, so I actually have a bona fide flute ready for me to relearn how to play. And so maybe I'll go find that tonight and see if I can like find some of the fingerings for the different notes and go back and practice again, because I haven't picked it up since shortly after Christmas 2 years ago. But yeah, Down Under was a really important song for me. It was one of my very first favorite songs, and that's really why I started this series about going through all the number ones of the 80s, because I have a special connection to a lot of 80s songs. Up to this point, up to the beginning of 83, I don't really have a strong connection to a lot of those records because I wasn't yet listening to popular music. But now, starting with Down Under, we're really getting into the meat of like songs that were out while I was paying attention, that were popular while I was paying attention. So I'll be able to give you all kinds of fun anecdotes about the stories from here on out. So that's really what I have to share about the song Down Under. It stayed number one for about 4 weeks, I believe, and they were non-consecutive. At the beginning of 1983, it was a hugely successful song, and it continues to be redone. I found out there were covers that two covers have been done in this decade alone. It's perpetually played at Australian sporting events, and it really does. It's one of Australia's most durable exports. I would argue way more durable than Crocodile Dundee turned out to be. But ironically, I'm sorry, I know I was about to wrap it up, but Colin Hay did say, and I found this out when doing the brief amount of research I did for this, that there was a certain Australian character that he had in mind when he was developing the lyric as being sort of like inspiring the narrator of this song. And I'm not familiar with that character. Apparently, it's an iconic Australian adventurer, but it very much put me in the mind of Crocodile Dundee. And I also feel like there's kind of a cultural echo there. Crocodile Dundee seemed to be kind of like the big screen manifestation of the quirky narrator of the Down Under video. Maybe in some measure, uh, the film series owes a lot of its success to this song because of that echo of a person like an Australian fish out of water, uh, quirky, funny, and having connections in other parts of the world. Uh, and because that generation grew up with Down Under as one of the cultural touchstones, it may have um, it may have jangled that nerve, or it may have resonated in a very particular way when the movie came out that people might not have quite recognized. Of course, for all I know, because I don't even think I've ever seen Crocodile Dundee all the way through. For all I know, they blasted Down Under in the opening sequence of the first movie, and it was a very obvious connection. I wouldn't know one way or the other because I've never seen the movie, or if I have, I totally forgot about it, and it didn't make much of an impression on me. But just a little food for thought there. Yeah, I'm sure I could go on for several more minutes because this is one of those songs where I really kind of it was a really big touchstone in my childhood. Uh, so until next time, we're gonna keep going through 1983, and I think the next number one after Down Under, or in between Down Under's various weekly stays at number one. I think the next one is the infamous Africa by Toto, and but if not, we'll get to it. It's coming up soon, but I think it's going to be the next video. Please stay tuned, and let's join me on this reactionless video journey. Thank you.